Hello there, one and all. Welcome to Slapendipity, Hobos of Happy Slappy Town. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me is Devin, who you may call Gibby.
My name's Gibby. I'm about blowing my nose and coughing up a lung, and I'm all out of blow. I didn't think this through. I have a cold.
Yeah, you really didn't think
I
that through.
have a cold and I'm all out of blow. Oh lordy, that's a great start here. Yeah, so how's your week been? Because my week has been not very fun. So much NyQuil, being tired all the time, walking around work and just constantly blowing my nose, looking at my chapstick and being like, can I put this just like on my face? Can I put this in my nostril? There's probably something better for that, but I'm at work right now and all I have is this chocolate flavored lip balm. Should I stick this up my nose? That question and many more will not be answered on this episode of the podcast. Eric, how was your week?
It was okay. Um, I actually had a thought during this week, and I figured maybe we could, theme it out a little bit, at least for, 5 minutes or so.
Okay, knowing us, it's going to turn into at least 25, but let's do it.
So we'll see. I forget what exactly it was that inspired this, but one of the jobs I used to have a coworker, if you can believe it. And she was uh, you know, strong-willed woman and just very strong maternal instincts. And so naturally, one of the techniques she would use when, I don't know, I was being, coy about something or, playfully hiding something from her or whatever, she would go, Eric, I'm gonna count to three. She would go, one. It's like, I'm an adult. That doesn't even, what are you doing? That's stupid. Two. It doesn't even, what are you gonna do? Three. Okay. And it would work every time, despite me being an adult. And, she's just counting to three. And then I thought about, being a little child and, that works on them. And that's weird. But I'm an adult and it worked on me. And that's weird. And I realized, oh my gosh, it's just the fear of the unknown. What will happen when she gets to three? Who knows? Will she beat me up? Probably not. But, what? Everyone thinks they're tough and hot patookie, and then someone counts to three, and you're like, well, maybe I'm not.
So you feel like you're conditioned to when an adult figure is like, hey, I'm going to count to three, and by the end of three, you better either not be doing what I don't want you to do, or you better start doing what I want you to do. And you just go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I guess so. But I think here's my little.
Mm.
I think most people would fall under that condition, not condition, but I think it would be effective against most people
So
because I
this
think
this
most of us
week
are scared of you know,
of that
that
kind of
sin.
thing, especially like maybe this is different in like other countries, other time periods, but I think a lot of us experience that kind of thing like as children. So like this week, I was doing the morning meeting at my job. There was like 12 of us gathered around it. I was conducting the morning meeting, and this group of like three or four people would just like start talking. Like talking over, like I mentioned one thing. I'm like, oh, we have to do this. They start talking, and then I try to transition to the next subject, but they're all just talking amongst themselves. And so I just fall silent, and I put one of my hands up, and they don't notice. And then one of the other like employees in the meeting, puts their hands up and goes, one, two, three, eyes on me. And they all just stop talking and turn their attention to her. And I'm like, I can't believe that worked.
I-
I can't believe that worked.
Incredible.
It's just like their fourth grade, student instinct kicked in, and they're like, I'm not supposed to be talking right now. I'm supposed to be listening to the teacher.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and these were all like full grown
Gotta
adults, mid
listen.
late 20s. It was quite funny.
I think it's pretty impressive how conditioned we still are from our childhood.
One of the things that I read a while ago, we're talking like years and years, and one of the reasons why I start off stories like this with I read this a while ago is because if I'm wrong, then it's the fault of whatever article I read, 10 years ago. One of the things I read years and years ago is that an adult dog has about the intelligence of a 3-year-old. Obviously, they can't speak, but they have the learning and, emotional capabilities of like a 3-year-old. And so I have a very old dog. And once I started treating her like a 3-year-old, I realized how much easier it would be to try to like understand what she's trying to say to me, or to like issue not commands, but communicate back to her in a way that I feel like she would understand, when she would just follow me around the house. And I'd be like, okay, are you following me around because you want me to give you a treat? Are you following me around because you're lonely and you don't want me to leave? Are you following me around because you have something that you have to like explain to me? Like, oh, hey, my paw hurts. Why aren't you paying attention to me? I need to show you this. And I found it much easier to communicate with my elderly dog by thinking of her as a small child as opposed to a dog.
And they say that being a dog parent's not the same as being a normal parent.
I don't think any normal parent would be like, you know what I want? I want to have a 3-year-old child for 14 years straight.
Yeah, yeah. Can't really grow out of. Dogs don't turn into rebellious teenagers going, I hate you. Um, but all that being said, I was wondering if you wanted to discuss some fears, perhaps.
Some of my like innate fears, or like okay, so I think there's two fears, right? There's innate fears, things that all humans are like born with, or that most humans are born with, or that you're quote unquote supposed to be born with. And then there's the ones that are like instilled on you by like society and culture. Um, another tangent. This one's going to be even weirder to go on, but I remember this would have been the late 2010s, no, the late 2000s, early 2010s. And I know that you've experienced this, Eric. In the first Assassin's Creed game,
Uh-huh.
they're explaining the technology behind this storytelling device in which you play as a character in the modern day, and they plug you into this machine, and they say science has determined that you carry the memories of all of your ancestors within you. And so by plugging you into this machine, you can relive the experiences of your ancestors. And then the entire game, which takes place hundreds of years in the past, is your quote unquote ancestor. So when you die in the game, it's because the machine has desynced from your quote unquote memory of these events happening. Or if you act in a way that's not how that character would have acted, that's because your memory's out of sync. Like it's just the storytelling framing device for why the gameplay and the story, the ludonarrative dissonance, for why the gameplay and the story don't totally match up. And the way that they explain this science is by saying, like, when animals are born, they have what we have deemed what we call animal instinct. It's the animal instinct of a baby turtle to hatch and then crawl toward the sea and know how to swim. It's the animal instinct that, like, cats have the ability to, when a cat's trying to scare something, right, they put their ears back on their head and they, like, bare their fangs, and it's a cat that's mimicking the look of a snake because it knows that other creatures are scared of snakes. So when a cat's trying to be scary, it looks like a snake. And because humans do not have that kind of animal instinct, like when we're born, we know literally nothing besides holding on tightly to something with our fists and um, to suckle milk. Those are literally the only thing that human babies know. And
And to
so,
cry.
and to cry to get attention. But so the conceit of Assassin's Creed is like, actually, humans do have animal instincts. and this machine will extract them and allow you to play as a Middle Eastern assassin and also as a Renaissance man. So just as something in the back of my mind for the last, however many years it's been since I played Assassin's Creed, has been like, do humans have animal instincts? And if so, what are they? And if you were then around through the mid 2010s, like me and you both were, and you're reading creepypastas and watching those YouTube lore videos about like some spooky stuff, it'll tell you about like, oh, the uncanny valley. You're scared of things that look kind of like humans but aren't fully humans. Could this be because back in the Neanderthal days there was something around that looked like a zombie? Ooh, that's spooky. Or like, oh, the human innate scaredness of big cats and lizards is why dragons exist. So that tangent was just for me to say that the way that I conceptualize innate fear goes back to my understanding of animal instincts from Assassin's Creed. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Are you clapping? Because
That was beautiful.
I can't hear the clapping. They can hear the clapping.
I know.
Yeah, the magical chaos
I
being
know.
Discord is like, Devin, you cannot hear Eric's clapping noise because
Clapping.
I need to, in order to remove white noise from this conversation, I need to get rid of anything that's not human speech. It's just a
Yeah.
setting in our little Discord conversation.
Also, if you heard applause, you would be cured of your illness. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kind of. I guess I was thinking more innate, but we could do social ones as well. Like, I remember back when I was a wee lad out on the playground. Um, I forget, like, the details. The details don't matter. Um, but I was playing with a group of kids, and it was, like middle school, like, I don't know, fourth, fifth grade, something like that. Who's to say? And so you still had recess, is my point, though. And I remember we were like playing with the slides, and the type of slide that like it was a 360, like it wasn't um a slide that like was just kind of like a chute and you went down. It was like a tube.
Yeah, twirly slide.
Yeah. So we all were like going down this slide, and then there was a jam because there was just so many of us in it, and I was in the middle of it, and there was a kid in front of me and behind me, and no one was moving, and we stayed like that for at least half a minute, and I started freaking out quietly to myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm claustrophobic. What a way to learn.
Even just hearing that story, like my skin just started to crawl.
Yeah, it was rough. And that's the only time it's kicked in though. But it was because like I couldn't move. Like everyone was jammed in so tightly. Like I was just stuck and I had no means of like doing anything on my own. And eventually I guess the kid at the bottom like got unstuck and then then everyone else got unstuck. And then I was like I, slid down the slide, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Um, and since then, I've never. I mean, how often are you going in a like 360 slide like that? Um, but yeah, now I've never been like, if I go in a slide like that, I'm the only person going down that slide.
I have, so I mean, me and you are both Italian, but I have many many cousins, but the cousins that I would see most often when I was a kid were a little older than me and my brothers, and so they would be like, oh my God, we know, we have all this knowledge, as 12-year-olds that you don't have as like a 10-year-old, and so they would tell like these scary stories that I'd never heard before and that were really really scary to, however old I was at the time, me. And one of them that I remember was this like, it's like, okay, you're at the top of this slide and there's three slides and you have to go down one. You can't go back behind you. One of the slides leads to a room with a killer clown holding a knife. One of the slides leads off the edge of a cliff. And one of the slides leads into a den with a lion that hasn't eaten in a year. Which slide do you want to go down? And just like the thought of going down a slide to some terror like scared me. Now this is based on a real riddle that I'm sure people have heard before, but typically in the riddle it's like you open a door, not you go down a slide. And in case you want to know the solution to the riddle, Eric, do you know what it is?
You pick the
Why do you
lion.
pick the lion?
It hasn't eaten in a year. It's dead.
Yay, that's the answer to the riddle. Okay, but my
Yay.
thought as a 10-year-old who'd never heard this riddle before was, first of all, imagining myself at the top of this, 3-slide enclosed space. I was picturing like Mario 64, right? There's like 3 slides in front of me. I can't go down. I can't go back anywhere. I just kind of plopped into existence in this room with no way out. And I'm like, okay, if I go down one of them, I can just like hold myself in the slide by, putting up my feet and my hands and like not letting myself go down the slide. But then I'd just be in the slide
Mm.
forever.
Yeah.
And so I just had this fear of like, okay, what is the ideal scenario here? Killed by a clown or in a slide forever until I starve to death? And that memory has just, I guess, stuck with me, and you unlocked it by telling me your slide story just now.
You're welcome.
I don't like it.
Yeah, we're not supposed to.
Hmm.
We can keep going on the topic of fears indefinitely if you'd like, but this is pretty funny because I have my sheet of paper that I didn't tell you anything about. And on the list of topics is the fears and, everything I just said. And then one of the things that you just happened to bring up is I think people overestimate the animals they can fight
Hmm.
in, scenarios where like what's the toughest animal you could take on? And people are always like, "Oh, a lion, oh, a shark, a giraffe, I don't know, whatever." And I think those people are wrong and or just overconfident.
I mean, like, throughout history, there have been examples of people who, like, fight lions, right? Like, that was a
Well,
thing that
sure.
actually happened. With that said, I don't think the typical person could take a lion.
Yeah, also like the current modern day person is such a different type of person than the gladiators or what hunters from back in the day.
Would you rather fight, like, a bodybuilder or a lion?
A bodybuilder.
So, like, someone who
A lion?
massively, massively larger than you, muscles, and has, human thinking and strategic ability, no weapons or anything,
I
versus a
mean,
lion.
if it's to the death, I guess it kind of doesn't matter. But if it's not to the death, a bodybuilder isn't gonna like go for my weak points or be as savage as
I'd
possible.
say to the death.
Lion's just gonna be like kill.
Mm-hmm. No, to the
If it
death.
is to the death, I think I still would pick a bodybuilder just because like I know how a person thinks and I can like try and get in their head. And like you could kind of do that with a lion, but not really. Like, they're probably going to go for your throat or whatever. But then like, well, you know. But if you go for a bodybuilder, you can just like kick their knee and then like,
I think a,
that's
a
something.
bodybuilder is probably going to be fast enough that they just lumber down on you, punch you in the head once, and then you're down. Whereas a lion, and I don't really know much about lions, but I think that like if you lift your arm up and they bite your arm, then like they're not going to just
Mm,
rip it out of its socket, right? They're going to have to bite down on it and whatever. And I think that that gives
yes,
you an opportunity to like poke its eye out or to like grab it from
sure.
behind the neck, right? Like you have one shot to like fight back because all it really has are like its paws and its mouth. and if you can somehow get behind it, oh my god, just you go straight for the testicles. and then
Yeah, you
and,
can
and
say
then and
the
then you get
same
you.
thing about the bodybuilder.
Okay, but you're not gonna get if you get to the bodybuilder's testicles, it's just gonna crush you between his thighs.
Oh. No, if the lion is grabbing you by the arm, that doesn't give you like testicle range.
I'm just saying, if I go into the fight with the lion, I'm already aware that I'm going to be losing an arm, and I think that allows me to like grab it by the neck. Whereas if I can somehow get behind it, right? Because a lion's not going to be thinking strategically. So if somehow I can get behind the lion to go for the testicles, I think I would be good.
Amazing, stupendous. I still think I'd pick a bodybuilder. I mean, I don't pay that much attention to like the sciences of working out and stuff, but a bodybuilder doesn't have a ton of useful muscles unless we're like talking about bodybuilders that do like a strong man versus a
I was
bodybuilder.
thinking a strong man.
I see. But even still, I could like, I don't know, like, yeah, they could just run up to you and punch you in the head, but like a lion can just run up to you and grab your throat with their mouth. Like, worst case scenario is worst case scenario. Although those might be the best case scenarios because there's no not too much pain. You just die. You either get sucker punched or you just get your throat ripped. But yeah, you could also do like a bunch of, if the strong man is attacking you, you could be like, you suck and you're lame, and get in their head about it during the fight and like try psychological things. But also,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who's been attacked by a dog,
Mm-hmm.
I, and I was a child, so I just ran. Um, but I think even then, like, I think people underestimate animals too much. Like, they, they're just built different, you know? Like if they want to chomp you, they're gonna chomp you.
And that's why you gotta chomp back.
Yeah, but we don't have chompers. They got chompers and instincts to kill. We got chompies. That's not a
They have
chomper.
chompers and we have chompies.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got lowercase chompies. And everyone also like goes to the, well, I'll just stab out its eye or poke its eye
Mm-hmm.
out. And it's like, it could still live from that. Like, I mean, if you do go deep enough, eventually you'll hit brain, I guess. But like, you know, that if you don't, they'll still live, and now they're just pissed off, and now they're gonna attack you even more. I think the amount of like reach people give themselves, or like even you, of like, oh well, I'll just have my arm be bitten and then I'll just like climb on its back. And it's like, it's a fight to the death. I'm sure adrenaline could kick in, but like, can you do you actually think you can, like, my arm is grabbed in place, time to sacrifice it so I may spin around onto this lion's back?
If I'm mentally prepared, then I think that would be easier than fighting a strong man. A strong man would also be aware, consciously aware that it's a battle to the death. A lion can, like, give up. It can be like, oh no, I lost an eye. I'm gonna slink away in defeat.
Well, presumably the lion would know. I'm assuming
Well,
like gladiator style. Like
yeah.
if it's a battle to the death for both of them, the lion's not going to be like, "Well, time to take a little break."
I know it could say I'm going to take a little break and like walk away to lick its wounds, and that's when you sneak up on it and you just go right for the testicles.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about the strong. You have to apply the rules
And
evenly.
I don't
Like,
think the strong man would do that. He would want to
but
get rid
I
of
don't
you
think a
in the
lion's
lowest amount of
gonna
time.
do that.
The lion sees you as
I
a
think if
threat.
you,
The strong man knows he has to kill you. It's a difference.
but that's you got to operate under the same rules, and I think in this case, because we're already in a hypothetical, we would just say the lion knows it has to kill you as well.
Lions
Also,
can't know things like that.
I mean, it can. Also, if you stab out of the lion's eye, I think you would just do like corner it, like corner the lion mentally, and the lion would just like lash out.
That's why you go for
I
the
don't think
other
you'd be
eye.
like,
Then you win.
but you have to get to the eyes.
That's fine. You sacrifice an arm.
I don't, I think you overestimate your pain tolerance, because you could just take so much pain that you pass out.
Well, and then I lose, right? Like
And
this isn't. I don't think I could win. I think there's a possibility I could win, and that's my only chance.
mm, that's crazy to me. You think you have a better chance with a lion than a strong man.
100%. Better question. Better question. 1 billion lions or every Pokemon?
I mean, it has to be every Pokemon.
This was a
Anyone
joke
that
suggestion.
says,
Yep. There's
I
so
know,
many
I
YouTube
know.
videos where people try to break it down, and the answer is very simple. The lions can't attack the flying Pokemon, and that's it.
That's true. That's true.
You got some birds that can fly around and breathe fire, and that's it. GG.
We also have like the in Pokemon universe of God on your like. I don't. What's a lion gonna do to God?
the
Cry, I guess.
name of the episode. What is a lion going to do to God? Um, do you have any other, not like questions or anything, but like on the same level of innate fears? As we've been talking, I've been trying to run through my head, like, what are some of the typical fears? Like, oh, people don't like clowns. Oh, people don't like public speaking. Oh, people don't like claustrophobia. Oh, people don't like the dark. And
Ho ho
I'm sitting
ho.
here and I'm like, dude, I don't even know what scares me. I don't even know, like,
Sounds like you need to reflect.
if I've been in, well, it's because I watch so much like scary content. I think as you just said, like, oh, people think they can just like take on big creatures. I listen to so much scary content, and I'm like, ugh, the woods at night wouldn't scare me. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
scared if I had to fight Slender Man.
Sure. But then Slender Man appears before you in the middle of the night
Hmm.
in the woods.
And I'd just be like, ha, I know your lore. You only go after children, and then I'd win. See? That's why I'm not scared.
Bruh. I thought you were gonna be like, I would be scared of Slender Man because I'm overconfident. Oh my
Would you
gosh.
rather fight a Slender
It's
Man or a lion?
a lion. I wanna fight Slender Man. He's creepy.
So I just got done reading a book called The Watchers, which is
Okay.
going to be turned into a movie. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, then the movie will come out tomorrow, Thursday, June 6th, I think. Oh, I guess we should also say that this is going to be the last week of double uploads. Next week will just be a single upload. Yay.
Hooray.
So I just got finished reading the book that movie is based on. And no spoilers. If you want to see the movie, there's no spoilers in this. But the conceit of the book/movie is that these people are in this room in the middle of the woods, and there's is it called a two-way mirror or a one-way mirror? Am I stupid? What's it called, like in a police interrogation, where if you're on the inside, it's a mirror, but if you're on the outside, it's a window?
Two-way mirror?
Two-way. I would assume a two-way mirror is like it reflects on both sides. I'm just being dumb right now. Either way, it's one of those things where if, like, you're in a police interrogation, one way is a mirror, the other way is a window. And so these people are in this little house, and one of the walls of the house is a giant mirror. But they know that people can see them through the other side, right? Like it's a window. So if you're on the outside, if you're in the woods, you can see everything that's going on inside of the room. And they're like, there is someone out there watching us, and we can't leave. And if we leave, then we die. And they're just going to stare at us. And then in the trailer, there's one shot where, like, Dakota Fanning is looking at the glass, and, like, you know that right on the other side of the window is a big spooky monster looking right at her. But all she can see is her own reflection. Oh my god, aren't you so scared of this concept? And watching the
It is a
trailer...
two-way.
Two-way mirror, that's what it's called. You looked it up? Yeah. Watching the trailer, I'm like, this is silly. Like, I would think I would be disturbed at the fact that I have to be in a room with multiple people, that I can't leave, that I'm being watched in, but it wouldn't be scary. But then reading the book, there are some moments that are like really, really, really like they like get under your skin, right? Like creepy.
Mm.
Like it's not so much what's going on in the story and your fear for the character as it is like the concept of what's being described. And I don't know if the movie's going to go into that as well. And again, I can't discuss exactly what parts of the book are scary without spoiling the movie that hasn't even come out yet, so I'm not going to. But I remember the scene from Harry Potter where Ron is explaining why he's scared of spiders. And he said that when he was a kid, Fred and George, his older brothers, transfigured his teddy bear into a spider. And so he was just holding his
Oh my
bear. He's
gosh.
like, I imagine what you would do if you were holding your bear and suddenly it had too many legs, and then like he trails off. And reading that, I'm like, okay, whatever. But if you stop and you think about it, like your
That
childhood like
is terrifying.
blankie or your teddy bear, and suddenly it morphs into some like living creature. It just like becomes a tarantula, right? Like I'm not scared of tarantulas, but I would be scared if my teddy bear became a tarantula. There was this like
Yeah.
this Onion-esque article that came out a couple years ago, and it was like hey everyone, it's exciting. All of the eggs in our Beanie Babies are getting ready to hatch.
What?
All of the eggs in our
Oh,
Beanie Babies are getting ready to hatch.
those are beads.
And the article was that each little bead inside of every Beanie Baby is actually a spider egg. And so all of our Beanie Babies are getting ready to hatch, but not like just a spider, but some like,
Advanced
some
spider.
Lovecraftian like scary creature that is birthed out of those beads, like a cicada where it takes 16 years for them to hatch, right? So it's like, okay, all these little creatures are about to hatch out of your Beanie Baby collection. And again, it's that idea of like your childhood teddy bear, this thing then just suddenly tearing open and thousands of spiders coming out of it. Or this thought of like, oh my god, I have a closet with some dusty Beanie Babies in it, and suddenly it's going to infect the entire house. It's like there's some creepy, crawly scariness that gets under my skin just thinking about that I don't get if I'm just like looking at a spider. Like I wouldn't say I'm scared of spiders, but just that thought gets to me.
I mean, that's fair. I think people, I guess kind of as you are, like they're either trying to be brave and they're like, haha, I'm not scared of anything. Or they don't know what they're scared of, which is in its own way wild, because I don't know, how do you not? Um, but like, I think do you remember the episode of SpongeBob where they befriend Wormy and
Wormy.
Wormy turns into a caterpillar or
Yes.
is a
And then a
caterpillar and
butterfly.
turns into a butterfly
Yes.
and it does like a intense zoom in on a real life butterfly?
Mm.
That scared me as a child. Because it is scary. Like, it's wild to like see that up close. I think if we put like a spider, a tarantula on you,
Mhm.
you'd be like, nah. And there is something to be said about like the spider in your corner of the room versus the spider on you. Like, those are kind of different.
Our high school, middle school, high school friend, who we used to play Dungeons and Dragons with, her character name was Destructor. She told a story where she would she wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob as a kid because she watched the Wormy episode and the close up of the butterfly scared her so much and made her start screaming that like her parents banned SpongeBob in the house after that because it upset her so much. Just like that specific episode, that specific scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And like
yeah.
I don't know, it didn't ever scare me as a kid. It's just a butterfly.
It's not just a butterfly. It's the most intense close up of any insect you've ever seen at that point in your childhood.
I
Even
guess.
if you had a butterfly land on your finger and you looked at the butterfly, you would not be able to see all of the detail that PNG or whatever JPEG of SpongeBob showed us.
Okay, but it's a butterfly. And like in the episode it would cut to
But
like
it's
it cuts to
what do you
everyone like running around being scared and then the butterfly just like harmlessly flaps after them. And then they run around the other way and then
well, I
like
mean,
this
sure.
they burn down the city.
Yes.
And it's like in
I
context it's a
mean,
butterfly.
yes, in context, it's a butterfly, but when you see that amount of detail that close to you, like, it's freaky. Insects are creepy. They look weird. To further this, like, you wouldn't be scared of Slender Man. I disagree, sir. I think if you were left in the woods in the middle of the night and you had a flashlight that, like, sometimes worked, and you saw a man that's like 10 feet tall and he was just standing there watching you and
Menacingly.
like occasionally got closer to you as whenever you like turned around, like that's just that's that creepy to anyone. I don't think you'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, well, it's the same thing as like when we're walking in the woods and a wood troll walks by and you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going. Like that is a creature, and should it see me, it might come after me, and should that happen, there's really nothing I can do. But you just accept it as a part of life. And I think the only thing that's scary about Slender Man is that he quote unquote doesn't exist. Right? Like genuinely, I
Sure.
think I am more scared of a black bear or of the trolls that walk around Happy Slappy Town than I am of Slender Man. The only thing that scares me about Slender Man is that because he is a cryptid or a creepypasta monster, etc., I don't know what his abilities are. I don't know what his like powers are. I don't know what his intentions are. And so that unknown is what scares me. Whereas a bear or a troll, like I know what it's going to do. I know what the worst possible outcome is. I also know its intentions. So I'm not so much scared of a being with Slenderman's powers as I am a being with question mark powers and intentions, right? It's not Slender Man that you fear when you look upon death and darkness. It is the unknown.
Yeah.
That's a quote from Dumbledore.
Just just
Um, I may have
just
changed one or
proving
two of
me
the words
right.
there.
Hey man, I'm just saying. I think people, when I watch a scary movie and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and it's nighttime and maybe the monster's really effective, I'll be a little freaked, maybe a little, "Oh my gosh, what if what?"
So I was watching The Strangers or the Strangers Chapter 1, the 2024 like remake sequel prequel whatever it is. Watching
I
it
also watched
I
that.
watched it at midnight, in the theater, and one of the funny things to me is, and slight tangent, where people talk about like, ooh, spooky liminal spaces, like a mall at night, and there's no one else there. Or like you're walking through your old elementary school and no one's there. Or you're walking through a movie theater and it's nighttime and no one's there. Um, is that I walk through a movie theater alone at nighttime all the time. So like that mysticism has been totally lost on me because to me it is a normal thing now. So it's midnight in a closed movie theater. There's like three of us there, and we're sitting down to watch The Strangers. And like, okay, I watch scary movies like that all the time. I've watched so many scary movies this year, like stupid, like Imaginary and Immaculate. Oh my god, these spooky, spooky, scary movies. But I'm sitting there in the dark theater. The movie like hasn't started yet, but the lights are dim. Sitting there in the dark, and I see from like 3 rows in front of me just a hand raise up and then lower back down. And I know that there's about 6 people in the building, and only 3 of us are currently in the room. And sometimes when we watch movies, people are like, I want to sit in the very front row. And sometimes we're like, I want to sit in the best seat. And sometimes they're like, I want to run around and like shoot each other with rubber bands because this movie is boring. And I'm pretty sure of the 6 people in the building, 3 of them are in the room, and I'm pretty sure the other 3 are not in the room. They're like going to get popcorn. And so when I see a fourth hand raise up in the B row, I'm like, oh, I'm probably just wrong, and one of the other lads is up there, and he just put his hand up. And the reason it looks like it's pitch black is because it's, the front of the hand is illuminated by the light from the screen, and the back of the hand is dark, and so that's why it looks like this pitch black shadow hand that just raised up. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there is no way that I can sit here and watch this entire movie not knowing if that hand is one of the lads or if it's a shadow monster. So I just immediately stand up, and my friend sitting next to me is like, Devin, what are you doing? And I said, I just saw someone in the B row. And she said, no, you're not, stop it. And I said, no, yes, I did. So I go and I walk down the steps and I peer into the B row, and there's no one there.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, that's not cool. And I lean down and I look underneath the chairs, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, okay. So I go and I sit back in my seat. And again, we're watching like the trailers before the movie starts, right? So it's not pitch black and it's not the spooky movie yet. It's just some trailers. And then I see another shadow figure, like, not behind the screen itself, right? It's not like they're pushing their face up against the silver screen, but it's like behind the skirt. It's like where the screen is, just that section of the theater. And I just see that there's like someone back there. And I stand up again, and I'm like, that's definitely just one of the boys who's like chilling behind the screen. Maybe they think it's funny because it's a scary movie. And once again, my friend is like, you don't see anything. And I'm like, no, I do. I do see something. And I go down there, and I have my flashlight on my phone, and I look around. And there's no one there. And I go back and I sit down, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing there's an eyelash in my vision. There's just like, the trailer we're watching is flickering like dark colors and then bright colors because it's like the trailer for Furiosa. And so it's like, oh my god, dark scenes of violence and then bright scenes of the desert. And there's little splotches in my vision, and so that's what these little shadowy apparitions are. And my fright, my spook, my worry is that during the scary movie, I'm going to start seeing them again. And then that doesn't happen, and the movie's not scary at all, and it was very boring, and I didn't like it, and then I didn't see any more for the rest of the night. But the overall point of this story is that the thing I was scared of wasn't the shadow monster, it was sitting in fear for 2 hours, wondering if it was a shadow monster or if it was just one of the boys. And so I needed to know for myself. I needed to go and check it out. And so after this happened, I now have full sympathy for when you're watching a horror movie and they hear a noise, and instead of staying put with, holding knives, they go and investigate. Because I, too, would go and investigate.
I think that's extra funny given that you just told a ghost story on one of the previous episodes where you're like, and I'm not gonna investigate.
Yeah, in my story where a ghost breaks into my house and takes my casserole dish, which you can watch on my channel Gibby's Horror Homestead, I talk about how I think there's an intruder in my house. Turns out it's not an intruder, it's a ghost. And me and my brother grab butcher knives and like walk back to back down the hallway to go like try to attack this man. But yeah, like when I was in this theater, I think that because I wasn't home and so I had somewhere to retreat to, right? Like if Slenderman stood up in the B row of the movie theater, I could just leave. I could just run. Whereas if I'm in my house,
What?
there's nowhere to run to. So I think that's the difference. Where I'm like, I gotta go and I gotta go. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna kill Slenderman. That's what's gonna happen here.
I am so annoyed that you're just being a mouthpiece for the average dude. Like, if Slenderman just showed up, you wouldn't run away. I mean, I should like your brain could be like, I will just run away. That will be fine. You wouldn't make it though
Okay, but
if he had wanted to kill you, I
but I
guess.
would protect the women in the theater with me. I would give them a chance to escape.
Bah,
I'm laughing, but like
Slenderman
I do
won.
mean that entirely seriously. The only reason I'm laughing is because you just said like that's what all the men think, and I'm like, yeah, it is. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I am not afraid to admit that things are scary. And things are usually scary when you've been primed to be scared of them.
Yeah, and like I agree with that to an extent, but as I was saying, like the part I was scared at was the trailer for Furiosa, not the movie The Strangers. In my ghost story where I was attacked by a real ghost, it was while I was watching Jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not scary, it's not scary.
One of the things, I think I just hit my microphone, I apologize everyone. One of the things that I very much want to experience is a horror game in VR because I don't
Oh my
know
goodness.
if I'll be able to do it. Like I know for my next big Five Nights at Freddy's video, the sequel to my 9-hour one, which by the way was just referenced in a Jaden Animations video. Oh my god, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me, except not really. Um, and I don't mean that to dismiss Jaden Animations. I just mean that I have been featured in other big videos as well. Um, and that just sounded like a brag. I'm sorry. I could have totally worded that.
Yeah,
I could have worded that so much better. Oh my god. Matt Pat mentioned my video on stream, and to me, that's just so much more than this. Um, I don't know why I went on a tangent at all. I just sound like a douchebag. Um, in my next video, I'm gonna have to play the FNAF VR titles, and I just don't know if I'll be able to. Like, I don't even own a VR headset, and I don't know if I'll be able to play through those horror games. So I don't know if I'm gonna do this whole investment to get this VR headset, to play the games, to record the footage, to be able to write my video, and then like play level 1 of Five Nights at Freddy's in VR and not be able to.
yeah.
Have you ever played a VR horror experience?
No. VR is expensive and stuff and
True.
are maybe not worth it? Question mark? I don't know what games exist for VR. So, shrug.
Shrug. I
Shrug.
I guess you could give us a 3 sentence summary of The Strangers, and then we could go to the Legrand Chase.
Feng Shui kills. It was very mid. I gave it too much credit.
Okay, and with that, we'll be back right after the musical break.
That's not scary. Unless you slow it down, maybe.
Eric, what does feng shui mean?
Feng Shui is the like arrangement and setup of like a house and like the energies that like pass through it. And it's like it sounds kind of like hippie bullshit, and it kind of is, but it's also not. Like, oh, I don't like sleeping with my head next to the door because I think someone, like, if someone comes in, they could just kill me, right? Like, feng shui says is like part of that, right? Like part of the reason you don't like that is because someone could do that. So you don't want to have sleep next to a door. You want to put your bed far away from a door. Or like if you have to sleep with your head next to a door, you want to put like a bookcase or something in between the bed and the door. Or like if you lay out a rug, then people will follow the rug. Um, so like if you have a rug in a hallway, people will only walk on the rug. And if you like have a rug under your bed, people won't walk on it because like that's not you like space to the public, that's space for the bed. So you can like guide people and their movements based on how you've arranged the house.
And that kills people in The Strangers?
I thought so. Like if you like where the couple goes throughout the movie is very much dictated by like they're following a rug that leads into this, or like they're taking the crawl space that leads to the shed, and then from the shed they go into the like. I mean, I'm aware that's also just like how horror movies are like set up and built. Um, but that's what I thought.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I guess now we're gonna move into the mailbag.
Okay.
Okay, so we got another email from Jam. You guys might remember 2 episodes ago, Jam wrote us our very first email mailbag. This time, the postman came and he actually copied the whole thing out. Like, he typed it up. He typed it on a typewriter. He took it. He put it inside a bottle. As he was driving by upstream of our little encampment, he threw it into the river, and it bobbed down the river. And I found it, and I opened it, and I took the cork out, and it made like a pop sound. And now we can read the message.
Did you take care of the seal on it?
Yeah,
I've been hearing a lot about like fake seals lately going around. You gotta check.
yeah, it has another one of those weird wax seals on it. Just like the last time, there was this strange like symbol or message on it. I guess maybe we could talk about those some other time. But in this case, I'm just going to read what was on the letter. I'm going to put the little wax seal into my little jar. You know those cheeses that come in little wax wheels? The red wax cheeses?
It's like Belvedere,
The point is I have a wax
Belvedere.
collection, okay?
You know, you could just take your own earwax and be gross and make your own wax collection.
Actually, Mythbusters proved you can't do that, so I'm gonna read this letter.
But it's what we call it wax. You can collect it.
Okay, I'm gonna read this letter. Um, wait. Is earwax in the platonic form of all waxes?
What do you yes?
Okay, interesting. That's like
I'm not sure what I said yes to.
are seahorses horses just because we call them horses?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Interesting. We can unpack that.
On some level.
We can unpack that later, I guess. Are sawhorses horses?
Yeah.
Okay. Are trapezoids
On some
zoids?
yes.
Like the giant robots?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna read this letter.
Yes.
Jam says, "Hi Gibby, hi Eric. Just wanted to thank you for reading my letter. I was half worried you guys were going to skip it due to the question on J.K. Rowling. I'll also keep this to only one question each this time, so we don't have another 2-hour episode. I like how Jam blames himself for our 2-hour episode.
Jam, we're all responsible for our own decisions. It wasn't your fault, except our own. Okay, you didn't do anything to do with that.
We got ourselves into a 2-hour episode, and we had to get ourselves out. So the first question is for me. It says, Gibby, you can't just drop a massive bombshell like that about the nature of Happy Slappy Town and not tell us any stories about your interactions with trolls, witches, or fantasy creatures. unless you count the hags, which makes sense actually. So he's right. In case for some reason this is your first episode of listening to the show, we do live in a town that has many fantasy creatures. There's the trolls I was talking about earlier, where you're walking through the woods, and sometimes there's a wood troll, not to be confused with a mountain troll. We don't like those. See, it's because we
Whoa.
live near the Appalachian Mountains, and Appalachian mountain trolls are freaking scary, man. All the spookiest stuff comes from the Appalachian Mountains.
Devin, why are you scared of it? Just let it bite your arm.
Because I don't know, because like the mysteries of all the stuff that goes along this mountain range scares me. I can deal with wood trolls, I can deal with plain trolls, I can deal with water trolls, but mountain trolls spook me. I do have a story about some goblins that I didn't have any direct interactions with. They came into my place of work when I wasn't there. But I did see them on camera. So this would have been a few years ago at this point. It's whenever Spider-Man No Way Home came out. There were these two goblins that came in. They somehow befriended an elf. And so the elf, which, like, he put a hat on, a beanie on to cover his ears, so he just looked like a normal human. And the elf was standing inside, and he was watching, he was the lookout for his goblin friends. So the two goblins walk up, and one of them stands on the other goblin's shoulders, and then they put a trench coat around themselves, and they're wearing sunglasses and a big hat to protect themselves from the sun. And they walk into the movie theater. And now, as we all know, goblins are significantly shorter than people, but two goblins, one on the other's shoulders, is larger than a person. So this giant, wobbly, trench coat double goblin walks up to the counter and goes up to our cashier and says, in his best imitation of human English speech, and says, "Hello, I'd like one ticket for Spider-Man." And the cashier says, like, "Okay, that'll be this much money." And then they reach into their pockets because, goblins don't really understand human currency. So they just hand like the correct-ish amount of money and they get their change back. And then they wobble down the hallway, and the guy on the top shoulder is obviously giving verbal directions to the guy underneath him who can't see out of the front of the trench coat. And they wobble down the hallway and go into their Spider-Man movie. Now, I wasn't there that day, but I was told the story later, and I did find it on the cameras. And it was quite a sight to behold.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, that's I guess my goblin story.
I guess we could like do an episode where we talk more about like our like fantastical encounters, but who's to say?
That could be a themed episode, maybe like around Halloween, spooky episode.
Well, what's spooky about elves and goblins and trolls, Devin? We're trying to be better.
They can be spooky even if we're not like racist
Oh my
against them.
gosh.
Like we just because we live in a forest with bears doesn't mean that like it's not scary that there are bears around. Just because we live in a forest with trolls doesn't mean it's not scary that there's trolls around.
So what I'm hearing is you don't send out your offerings of honey to the bears.
The problem with leaving honey out for the bears is that the trolls might get like dependent on humans, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, it's another honey pot." And then they're not scared of humans,
trolls...
and then they might get hit by cars, and then they're gonna stop being able to forage for themselves. Especially if the young ones stumble across the honey pots, they'll never learn to hunt, and they'll become dependent on humans, and then they'll start walking into town more.
If you do it right, the trolls never get access to it.
Okay,
someone's not paying attention to the witching hour.
The idea of being able to leave out honey that a normal everyday bear can get, but that a slightly more intelligent troll can't, like the overlap between intelligent trolls and dumb bears is like too high.
I don't know if you, I mean, to just jump off of that, we'll never have trash cans that are fully bear proof, allegedly.
What do you mean by never?
Because the overlap of the smartest bear and the dumbest human hit, like there is an overlap. So we can't have fully smart like trash cans that are bear proof, because then some of the silliest people might not be able to use them.
That is funny. I think I may have told this story already, but it bears repeating that I was trying to mail a letter when I was in college, and I had to go to just like one of the blue mailboxes that like you're supposed to dump mail into, and I was on the phone with my mother, and I couldn't figure out how to open the mailbox. It was one of the ones where you have to like open the
Devin, you're the
drawer.
reason why we can't have.
And I'm like, there's a
Them.
handle, but like it won't tug either way. It doesn't go down, it doesn't go this. And I'm on the phone with my mother, so like one hand's holding the letter and tugging on like the thing. I'm like, mother, I cannot figure it out. And she's like, just lift it or just pull it down. I'm like, it doesn't. And there are these two girls walking down the sidewalk, and one of them just wordlessly reaches over and just tugs it down for me, and then keeps walking. And I put the letter in, and like I'm still on the phone with my mother, and I just turn and I call down to the girl. I'm like, thank you. I'm just really stupid. And then I have to like red faced. I have to like go back to talking to my mom on the phone and be like, yeah, this girl just like opened it for me. I need to get out of here because people definitely saw that happen.
LOL.
So yes, I guess I am.
That's hilarious.
I am. I am dumber than the average bear.
No, than the smartest bear.
But then I couldn't be quoting Yogi Bear.
Oh.
Okay. So there's also a question for you here.
Hello.
All right.
Thank you.
Eric, have you played the Persona series? It's a fantastic video game which deals with deep topics and is incredibly stylish in visuals and music. If you're unsure about it, Persona 5 has a manga, and it's a pretty good adaptation of the game. Another great video game which takes heavy inspiration from Japanese culture is Danganronpa, which has an anime, which I would recommend.
So I have played Persona. I have not beaten any of them, which is tragic in its own way. I got to like the final area in Persona 5 and I just stopped.
Why?
And I don't know. I think I was just done with it. I don't entirely I shrug. I think I was just because I was playing it like every day when it came out
Mm-hmm.
for, 2 hours at a time or however long, 6 hours. Who's to say? I don't remember when it came out. What, 2016? Um, so I don't know. I think I was just tired of it and I just like burnt out from playing it so much. I have not played Persona 4. I have like watched people play it from like going over to their houses or like like around osmosis, I guess. Um, and I think I did watch the anime of that for a little bit. Shrug.
So I own Persona 4. I own Persona 4 Golden for the
and Persona
PlayStation
3.
Vita. And I've never turned it on.
Go on.
Which is the story of all of my Vita games. And then like it came out for the Switch, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to play Persona 4 Golden, I'll probably play it on like something that's on the Vita, which is also the story of all of my Vita games. The only thing I know about Persona is that there's like this cat.
Yeah,
I know
he's
Joker's
a
in Smash,
stupid jerk.
and I know that technically Persona is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, which I also know nothing about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that cat's just I hate that cat. It makes me so sad because it's a cat. I like cats better than dogs.
Boo.
Nah. And his character is like okay, but he's just such a jerk for no reason. Anyway, yes, I did also get Persona 3P, which has like the FemC, and then I a little bit like Devin, never really got around to playing it, and then Persona 3 Reloaded came out, and I've been like chipping away at that a little bit.
So one of my mother's friends bought a Vita when it came out, and then never played
Okay.
it. And so when I was going to
Yeah.
college, he gave the Vita and all his games to my mother and was like, give this to your youngest son, to my little brother, because with his older brother going to college, he's going to be alone all the time. So maybe he will find solace in this gaming console. And
What
so
a sweet thought.
she gave it to my little brother, and he's like, not only am I not super obsessed with video games, but like, if I'm going to play a game, the last thing I'm going to play is the PlayStation Vita. Because it had like 3 games. And so me and him talked, and he's like, I would much rather have like $60 than this Vita. And I said, I will pay you $60 for that Vita. And he said, okay. And so that's how I got my Vita.
Ridiculous.
I think,
I mean, good for you.
yeah,
That's a steal.
it came with Assassin's Creed
But
Liberation,
also,
and like that's it.
oh, well, you know. The Vita has good games. It's just lost in the library. Also, basically any game you could find on the Vita, you could find on like the 3DS or whatever.
Or even like, at this point, the
But it
Switch and
had
the
like,
PS4, etc.
hey, until Soul Sacrifice, which is a Vita game, is ported to something else, I'm not buying it.
Okay, but at this point, you could just emulate the Vita on a computer, and it would be the same experience, but infinitely better because it's not on a Vita.
Yeah, but then I would have to like figure out how to do all
Oh
of
my
that.
god.
Too much time.
Like, that's the one thing I will say about the 3DS, which is arguably like a quote-unquote worse console than the Vita, is that it's impossible to properly emulate without having 2 screens, and without the top screen being, in 3D. Like, I do not believe you can
No one
satisfy...
used the
I did all
3D.
the time constantly. My 3D slider was never off. I don't think you can properly emulate the 3DS.
You are the only person.
Disagree. Because like you can emulate a DS on a Wii U by using the gamepad as the bottom screen, but you can't emulate a 3DS anywhere, and that is really sad to me.
No, if you're saying that only because of the 3D, just don't use the 3D. It's not like it did anything.
It did
It was a
everything. It
fun
made the
gimmick.
system as good as it was. It was the best use of 3D, and
What do
I
you?
love it.
You're get out of
I'm not
here!
getting
Oh
out.
my
Nope.
gosh! Hang on, I gotta finish off Jam's last bit of his
Okay.
question. I have heard of Danganronpa. I watched a Let's Play of like one of the spin-off games when it came out for a few episodes, and I was like, shrug. This is okay. And then I think I watched a Let's Play of maybe one of the main games for a little bit, and I was just like, shrug. Okay. It just doesn't grip me. It's like a murder mystery whodunit, and you have to figure it all out. But I just never cared about any of the characters or anything, and it was just shrug. Boy, I'm saying shrug a lot this episode.
You could just like shrug and we wouldn't see it, but we would still know you did it.
I don't think I can anymore. I think it's becoming a habit. But thank you for the email, Jam.
Thank you for the email, Jam. And if you guys want to send an email too, you can send it to slapendipity@gmail.com. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also leave a comment and we'll take a look.
If it's good enough, we might even bring it on the show.
Yeah, but only if it's good enough. If your comment is not featured on the show, it wasn't good enough.
But you should try anyway, though. You should try anyway, though. If I look at the comments, maybe I'll be biased and be like, see, Devin, they do think that taking on a lion is dumb.
What do you think you'd rather do? Do you think you'd rather take on a lion or a strong man? Leave it in the comments below.
I can't wait for it to be 90% strong man and 10% lion. Because obviously strong man.
Before we go for the week, I have one short story I'd like to tell.
Tell me with your best shot. Fire away.
So, one of our friends who goes to school out of state was recently came home to visit, and he really wanted to see me and spend time, so we went to Applebee's. And we went there, and he is a listener to this fine show. And so we're standing, like, in the doorway waiting to be seated, and he's like, hey, Devin, are you going to get the pretzels? And I said, no, I'm on a diet. And he said, come on. I'm here, you gotta get the pretzels. because not only is it like, hey, we haven't really seen each other, we're going to sit down, we're going to catch up, we should eat something, but I think for him, part of it was like, he's going to get to experience history in the making. You know, he got to listen to it on the podcast, and so now he gets to see me eat pretzels. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this who, were they to see me eating pretzels, they'd be like, oh my god, it's like that thing on the show.
That's all
So
they want out of life,
they'd be like,
is to watch you eat a pretzel.
Gibby's doing the thing, he's eating the pretzels. So I was like, no, I'm on a diet. By the time we sit down and the waiter comes over and we like have the menu and I order the pretzels, he's like, really? That's how low your willpower is? At the door, you said you didn't want any, but now you're ordering them? And I'm like, dude, you're the one who's making me do it. So I get the pretzels and I take a couple bites and I'm just like, these aren't very good.
Oh.
These actually don't taste very good. There's a little too much salt on them, but even if I take the salt off, they're just nothing special.
Interesting. Go on.
So I'm wondering, like, is it because my diet has been so different for the last, like, 8 to 10 weeks that now the pretzel tastes different to me, and I can never experience, you know, my palate is so different that I'll never experience that pretzel happiness again. Or maybe they, like, changed distributor, or their recipe changed. And so even if I wanted to, I could never go back and experience that pretzel again. Maybe the pretzel is like a moment in time that we can't get back, like our youth.
It's possible.
Maybe the pretzel is the youth that we spent and all the moments in it that we thought would last forever but didn't.
Maybe the pretzels was being trapped in a slide.
Maybe the pretzel, as it was sliding down our throat, was like childhood me sitting in the slide trying not to fall down into the evil clown den.
You could also just, like, wait a week or two and order pretzels again and see if they're the same.
Leave your slide stories in the comments below. Thank you for watching.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.